It is well. Hope there too. My name is Hamid Omar, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and today we are going to talk about the twisty tale of the right to publicity and copyright law. We have an identity that is owned by us, that is unique and special, and it brings into perspective what most motivational speakers say: why be a copy when you're born an original? So we are different. You have different voices, you have different initials, different signatures, different images, and the videos that you produce are also different. This is what makes a person to be unique or special. And who that person is might range. He might be a teacher, a doctor, a musician, a pastor, an actor, an actress, a musician, or a rugby player. It might even be a politician or a comedian. Now, all this, like what we have defined, the unique perspective of somebody, or the uniqueness of somebody, or the special attributes of somebody, is what we call personality rights or publicity right. And the naming of these rights will depend upon which territory you come from. For example, from the US, they call it publicity rights. In Europe, they call it personality rights, and in most common law jurisdictions, they call them image rights. So now the right to one's identity qualifies as property. This is because, as defined by the International Trademark Association, is that personality rights are intellectual property. And as stated in Article 40 of our Constitution 2010, Constitution of Kenya 2010, is that property also includes intellectual property. This, if you correlate Article 40 and the definition, the general definition of words used in Article 260. So, as a property right, one thing should be noted is that property rights have those bundles of sticks, and one has to enjoy that property at the expense of others. And if anybody wants to use that property at the expense of the original owner, then one has to be compensated. So usually that's usually the issue with the right to property. So now on this right to publicity, if somebody infringes on that right, it brings the aspect of the right to privacy. And on this issue of and if that happens, now you have to compensate the other person for using their personality right as it is. And this one can be seen in one of the cases where in Anjoki Kumena versus KTDA Agency Limited 2019. Now that's on one hand, personality rights. Now we go to copyright. Copyright is the total enjoyment of a right by an author or a creator to an original work made. It might be composing a poem, writing a book, performing a play, recording a film. It ranges itself, like the definition of what copyright is, ranges itself according to Section 22 of the Copyright Act, which is to, these categories can be copyrighted. Like in that section, it states the things or those things that can be copyrightable. They include literary works, musical works, artistic work, dramatic works, audiovisual works, sound recording, and broadcast. So our main focus of attention for this topic of ours today is sound recordings, broadcast, and audiovisual works, and also artistic work. So now the twisty tale that comes here is that a copyright is something that one makes. But now we have a scenario whereby somebody makes something original and unique, which is copyrightable, but using the personality right of another person. For example, let's say you use the voice of President William Ruto, and then you as a comedian, you use that voice to make a sketch or a film. So you see, on that aspect, it's like you are using the voice of the president to make a sketch or a comedy something. So in that scenario, like you are using the personality rights of somebody, you are making something unique, which is the copyright. But now we have to ask ourselves, how is the original person, the person you took the voice from, benefiting from such a scenario? Like, do you get like 10% or do you get 20% or what's the amount? So that's the twisty tail that you're talking about here. So it might be depend on how the person uses the personality right of a person. They can use the personality right of a person to make a joke, like a comedy, a sketch, like making advertisement, for example, karibu customer, or using a familiar voice of somebody else and something like that. It might even even there is the aspect of also schizo tunes like that uses the same aspect. It might even be the mode of dressing, though this one is might or might not be in that category of classification. So now that's the twisty tail. How do you merge these two things? Like on one hand, somebody has used the personality right of another person to enjoy the benefit of a copyright. So now you have to ask yourself, like the original person, the personality rights, what percentage do they get from the benefiting of the copyright? So yeah, that's basically the twisty tail to it, because the copyright that will be made from the initial using of the personality right will first be original, will have skill and judgment, and also it will be tangible. So now you have to ask yourself, how do you cure that? Using the personality right to make a copyright, will you give the personality right person as 10%, 20%, or what percentage will you be giving the original? Because the copyright that is made, that video that uses the voice of a spectacular person, like they use the voice of that person to make the copyright and they're enjoying the benefit of that, like they're getting income. So now what about the original person whose identity was used to make this other person, the creator, to earn money? So yeah, that's where the twisty tail is. One thing should be noted is that if you look it from the angle of a politician, it's beneficial to them, because if somebody uses their voice, they'll be known like countrywide. And then also there's the aspect of the decline of the personality right will also lead to the decline of the copyright to be used. That's to me, like, for example, if the other person is a politician and the politician's voice is used to make a sketch or a film, when the life of that politician has come to an end, maybe let's say they have not been elected or they have gone silent, then that will be the end of the copyright, like the work that will be made. And then one other thing is that one should be noted is that personality rights are personal in nature. So as long as somebody makes a copyright to it and there's no complaint about somebody using the personality rights, then it will go silent. So basically that's it. It's an interesting perspective to look from the two, personality rights and copyright law. You will ask yourself, who will run supreme? Thank you so much, and that has been my time. I am Hamid Omar, advocate of the High Court of Kenya from Hamid and Associates Advocate. Can email us at hamidlegal800@gmail.com. Consultation is free via email, and then it will depend with the length of or the quantity. So you might get a reply maybe late, but yeah, you'll get a reply. So yeah, that has been my time. Thank you so much.